I woke up with no real plan in mind, but maybe, in retrospect, I should have taken a few minutes and jotted down a couple goals. The only thing that I knew that I wanted to do today was buy a new ground vehicle and take it out for a spin, and maybe try to find some adventure along the way. So I got dressed and headed downstairs to find out what the verse had in store for me today. One of my favorite things about living in Area 18 is all the neat people you get to meet, like Steve and Adam, the burrito and parkour enthusiasts, and Dave, who's been working a lot of overtime lately. Mark's a nice guy, but we're still working on his personal space issues. This would be my first time buying a vehicle from Astro Armada, so I had to check the map real quick, but once I did, I was able to locate it, and it was pretty quick and easy to buy my new STV. I still didn't have an exact plan in mind, but I knew I wanted to try out my new car, so I went to the metro station and headed towards the spaceport. Usually I find train rides kind of boring, but this guy in the back was pumped. As I got off the tram, I knew I needed to pick a ship that would have enough room to carry gear as well as vehicles, so I decided to go with the Crusader Mercury Star Runner. The MSR is one of my favorite all-around ships. It does so many things really well, but I always have trouble finding the button to open the door. But once I found it, I was able to get on board, head up to the cockpit, power on the ship, and it was finally time to head out.
This is Tango Oscar Victor 2 requesting takeoff and airspace clearance.
You are clear to launch.
Bigger spaceports like the one on Area 18 aren't really set up for smaller vehicles like my STV, so I decided to set my course for a local moon where I could pick it up along with a snub fighter in case I wanted to run some bounties. With Area 18 behind me, I powered up my quantum drive and headed towards Lyria, a local moon where I could find a mining outpost that would have pads where I could load up smaller vehicles. Little did I know that this quantum jump would be just about the last thing that went smoothly today. As I started my approach towards the mining facility and prepared for landing, I saw that someone had left some pieces of their ship laying on one of the pads, so instead of risking damage to my ship, I decided to find a nice piece of dirt to land on instead. As I strolled out of the cargo bay, I realized that Lyria was sitting at a balmy negative 15 degrees, so I started moving a little bit faster towards the Platinum Bay Station. I think that would have been about 5 degrees Fahrenheit, or did they call them freedom units before the UEE standardized everything? Well, either way, I got through the airlock and found something really cool. A chest filled with 2 helmets and an undersuit. After I had stored them, it was time to finally see my new ride. In their brochure, Grey Cat says that their sport terrain vehicle is fast and has good cargo space, but I feel like they're overlooking the main reason that it's a good fit for a lot of people, and that's its small size. Its tiny footprint means that it saves a lot of space for things like cargo or a whole other ship. As I started up my Fury snub fighter, I was thinking about all the space I had saved with my new vehicle and how easy it was going to be to land inside the cargo bay when something happened. A blip on my radar told me that there was a hostile ship nearby. I knew that this area was sometimes attacked by pirates and other hostiles, so I went to investigate. Sure enough, there was a Cutlass Black hovering nearby. I didn't want to leave him to attack other people in the area, so I chased him to space and we started our dogfight. Now the Cutlass may just look like a freighter, but it has a lot of guns on it. 4 main ones and a turret up top mean that when it hits you, it hurts, especially when you're flying a little tin can like the Fury. And that means, unless you want to be a permanent resident out here in the black, you need to be where those lasers aren't. After a couple close calls, some attempts at fancy flying, and a little bit of luck, I was finally able to chip away at the shields and armor of the Cutlass. And the star system was down 1 pirate. I didn't have long to pat myself on the back because suddenly I had another problem. The fight had taken me so far away from my starting point that I didn't know where my ship was anymore. Now, my first thought, of course, was just to open my star map and plot a course, but there's a little problem with that. In the Fury, there's no quantum drive and you can't plot a course. So I was kind of on my own. I decided to head towards the ground and then use my map to occasionally check if I was getting closer or further away from the mining facility where my ship was waiting for me. As I continued the search, I spotted another problem. My hydration levels had gotten dangerously low, which meant if I didn't find my ship soon, I would probably pass out before I ran out of fuel. The cruel joke is that I had water in my backpack, but there was no atmosphere on the planet for me to get out, take my helmet off and get a drink, and the Fury's cramped cockpit meant that I couldn't reach my water. So I had to find my ship, and fast. Suddenly, my scope showed a familiar blue ping up ahead, which meant after an hour of sailing around the skies, looking at nothing but ice, I knew that I would make it. I almost couldn't believe that I had made it back to the ship, and I needed a second just to take it all in before I headed back to the Fury, loaded it inside, and finally got that well-deserved drink. Almost before I put the cap back on my bottle, I heard something outside the ship that made me rush to the bridge. At first I thought I was looking at a pad rammer or someone who likes to ram their own ship into parked ships to damage them. But then I saw them land and realized this was probably their old ship, and they were trying to retrieve some gear that maybe they had lost. It looked like they were struggling a little bit, so I decided to lend a hand. I didn't want to risk damaging the other ship, so I very slowly and gently gave it a tiny nudge. It was about that time that I realized I never saw them actually come out of the ship that I just love tapped, so I double checked to make sure they were okay. I'm sure they were still just looking for stuff on board, so I opened my contract manager and accepted a bounty. The target's location was on the other side of the moon, which meant I'd be flying a night mission. That can be a good thing or a bad thing. You do get the element of surprise, but also low visibility can make it difficult to see what you're doing. But with all the time it had taken to load up the ship and find my way back to it after the fight, I figured I should go ahead and take the job and make up for a little lost time. I headed towards the target's location and tried to stay low so he wouldn't see me coming. Hopefully, I could hit him before he even knew I was there. He was still just a dot on the horizon, but as soon as I got into range, I opened fire and... This is why I don't like night missions. You know, you would think that if we could more or less bring people back from accidents like that, with nothing worse than a couple bad memories to deal with when you wake up. And believe me, those are no treat to deal with. But my point is, if we have the technology to do that, you would think they would come up with some way for us to see better at night. I don't know, they could call it night vision. It would be great. But anyway, I didn't have time to stand around thinking about technology that we didn't have yet. I had a ship full of gear and my old body to retrieve. I decided to use a fighter, my Anvil Arrow, to go retrieve my MSR. Reason being, I knew that I would have to leave it behind on the moon when I picked up my Mercury Star Runner. And a small ship like the Arrow would be a lot faster and cheaper on insurance later when I had to file a missing ship claim. Once I was airborne and out of the atmosphere, I set a quick course to Lyria, that moon that would just not let me go. As I saw my death marker on the horizon, showing me the spot where I had just experienced a fatal mid-air collision, I remembered that I had one more obstacle to overcome before I could go home. See, the thing was, my bounty target was also neutralized in the collision, but the area where we met was surrounded by ground-to-air turrets that would shoot anything overhead out of the sky, which meant I had to go in on the ground. Fortunately, I came prepared. My new car felt like it was flying over the moon's surface, and to be fair, half the time it was, but even though it was a zippy little ride, I quickly realized that even though I was going airborne from time to time, I was nowhere near as fast on the ground as I would be in a ship. So I decided to turn around, head back to the MSR, and fly in as close as I could get without being shot by those turrets. Otherwise, this self-rescue mission was going to take forever. My helmet's heads-up display let me know that I should probably head towards the ground, otherwise I would be getting into range of those turrets. So I hit the ground again and I headed towards my marker. The drop from the ship was a little bit further than I had anticipated, but I decided that was a problem for future me. Right now, I had one more flight in my little buggy to make before I met past me. I'm not gonna lie, it was a little eerie seeing the evidence from the crash all around me, and a little bit more so when I found my own body on the ground, but I needed to get all this gear off and start heading back towards my ship so I could call it a day. I know it might seem like a lot to come all the way back here just to get a couple things off my body, but with the way today was going, saving 10 grand by not having to replace all this gear was definitely worth it. While I was at it, I tried to take a gun from my ship. I mean, I figured it was mine after all, but unfortunately, that was not a roof rack. As I made my way back towards my ship, I remembered something that I had left till later that I was going to have to deal with now. All I can say is I am very thankful for the low gravity on some of these moons. After a quick costume change, I moved the ship, packed up the buggy, and headed back to the mining facility where I started my day to do a ship system and inventory check. After spending the better part of 4 hours fighting, freezing, finding my way back to my ship, all while fiending for a drink, not to mention dying in a fiery wreck, I figured I'd probably had enough for the day, so I pointed my nose away from Lyria and towards a space station where I could stop and pick up a couple supplies before finding a quiet place in the stars to call it a night. Conveniently, most space stations have landing pads where you can land, pop inside real quick to run an errand, and come back out without actually having to go inside a hangar, so I took care of my shopping as quick as I could, turned around, and went looking for a quiet patch in the stars where I could rest my head. After coming to a stop in a place where I thought no one would find me, I immediately headed back to habitation, jumped into my PJs, turned out the lights, and finally laid down on my bunk where I could dream up a plan for tomorrow. Thank you so much for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below so you know next time that I post a Star Citizen story.